Welcome to Business Notes, the show that talks to entrepreneurs about their inspiring stories and how they built their business. I'm your host, Diane Bogino. It's a pleasure to have Kelly Tallon Franklin as my guest today. Kelly is the founder of Courage for Freedom, a Canadian leading organization that exists to educate, train, and certify frontline and community service providers on proven strategies and prevention tactics to serve vulnerable victims of human trafficking and sexual exploitation. Kelly is a human trafficking and child exploitation survivor, renowned speaker, best-selling author, National Task Force chair, social justice advocate, and noted expert in human trafficking awareness. Now, here's Kelly to share her amazing story with us. Kelly, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
I am so excited to be with you, Diane. I can hardly contain myself. And, good nerves. I have my own PTSD and trauma, and things kind of rattle around in my emotions in my head. But today, I was just really excited about hanging out, talking a little bit, and seeing what we can do to move the dial to help those that are caught in human trafficking or have been in human trafficking to understand there's people out there that love and care for them.
Yes, and we're happy you're doing this work. So let's start with tell us who you are and about your company.
So my name's Kelly Tallon Franklin, and I live in Canada, although I've traveled to a lot of places extensively for work and personally. I actually am the founder of an organization called Courage for Freedom that started north of the border. We're basically a registered incorporated charity that is a collection of very passionate volunteers who really strive to support and advocate for victim survivors of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and commercial sexual exploitation of women, children, girls, and boys, all persons. We work directly with governments, with industries, with communities all across North America. And we help train them about the real issues, not the myths, and how they can advocate to bring more awareness. It's not just about advocacy, but how they can bring the awareness in through advocacy to create activism in the area of human trafficking. And basically our goal is to eradicate the buying and selling of girls and boys, all children, because that's the largest demographic that's being victimized by this crime against humanity.
All right. And what do you do?
The joke is that my name is Kelly Can You. I don't have a very good no button, but in the last, I'd say 5 years, we've really filter focused to become known as experts in the field. And myself as a human trafficking survivor, I lend my experience to be able to operate and do the work, boots on the ground. So we work with anybody from page 1 to page 250 on this issue that needs to learn about it and care about it. We also help those that are entrenched in sex industry, in the criminal activities, and in the lifestyle. We provide trauma-informed, strength-based, and individual-centric care for victim survivors, and also their families and the agencies that are striving to work with them. We have proven education. We do train. Everything's based on lived experiences, research, anecdotal evidence, and based on the over 527 survivors that Courage for Freedom has helped since 2013. Those direct supports give us the basis for our curricular development to educate and train frontline support workers, community service providers. We have some proven strategies and prevention tactics that have served the vulnerable demographic sector of the victims of human trafficking with dignity and respect.
Kelly, why do you do this work?
Somebody did it for me. I'm basically paying it forward. When I was young, I was trafficked when dinosaurs roamed the earth. But some of the things that continue are the grooming, luring, the exploitation, the manipulation, the forced means, and the level of psychology behind how those that are most vulnerable in our societies are targeted. And it's just a new way to do it now with all the electronic means, but the crime itself does not change. And we are still yelling from the rooftops about this issue. And we are not changing our governmental systems. We're not changing our children's aid systems. We're not changing our services to racialized communities within our communities. We're not changing and offering additional supports to those that are also stuck in forced labor or trafficked through labor or trafficked through cyber crimes. And so I can't remain silent. First, because I believe I've got a purpose to fight the good fight. But I stand on the shoulders of many persons across the globe through the Palermo Protocol, through my work with United Nations, through Business and Professional Women International, Canada and Ontario, and globally, and under the laws of CEDAW that require us to protect one another and provide safety and happiness as a human right, a child right, and as our civic duty. I just can't be silent, and the hole in the bucket is getting bigger. So there are more and more ways that things are happening. There is more criminal activity. And I believe people are getting exhausted, but we shouldn't, because we're actually on the cusp of doing some pretty incredible things all across the globe, in the United States, in Canada, in every small town and hamlet. Good things are happening. We cannot get tired, because people that were trying to help and support me, they didn't get tired. They kept fighting. And it might be a long haul, but you have to think for me, I think in terms of one girl, just one girl. If we can help, I can't just fight and do the interventionist work and the post-vention care and support that trauma requires for the rest of someone's life, if I'm not looking at what's causing the hole in the bucket to get bigger.
I want my audience to be cleared. You both, if I'm clear, if you both educate young people on the prevention and how to protect themselves, as well as educate their families, but also do you help women or people, because it happens to males as well, after they've been trafficked to get back into life?
We supply direct support services, and we're networked with those. So anything from a drive away from a hotel to a safe space. And then we do have safe spaces that are at undisclosed locations. We network with other partners that also offer it. So we're always navigating the network of care, providing the best and quickest frontline safe spaces that we can, helping support a victim survivor and their family to understand their trauma, get help unilaterally, families getting their own help from vicarious trauma, those that are in it, the tentacles of this are huge. So everything from addiction support to basic care needs, to a drive to court, a pair of shoes, clothes, food, and teaching them life skills and peer mentoring and continuing the supports. And one of my specialties is using a Horses That Heal program, because we learned from, the Wounded Warriors, both programs that support vets, that's the best form of PTSD support.
Really?
Yes.
And you have I want you to address what you're doing about what's going on today. I think people are totally unaware about the aftermath of the Ukrainian situation, how it's affecting our continent, and your exciting news that you have to share with us that you're doing. So if you could address those.
The things that we always have to understand, excuse me, is not only what's happening in our own backyard. So I encourage people, we can help you to find out locally what's happening. But past that, take a look and read with an open mind whenever you see anything in the media. Right now, we know, as those that that fight against violence in women and girls, specifically in human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and commercialized sexual exploitation, we know that when there are wars, the first and most devastated victims of war and those most exploited and underserved or under-supported are women and girls. And what's happening currently in across the globe, and will continue to happen anywhere there's any type of conflict, is that women and girls very often, in order to care for themselves and their families, they become commodified. And so we have heard horror stories from those that are boots on the ground across the globe, not only in the Ukraine, but in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Afghanistan, across all all diverse places and spaces, that there are women and girls that are forced and coerced to sell themselves, or they're just being raped and then resold in order to satisfy criminal activity. Whenever there's opportunity and people are at higher risk, criminals will move in and take advantage. So being sold to get across a border, to be able to secure a passport, to be able, to buy diapers and formula for your baby. There are false promises, and there are things happening to women and girls right now that we need to pay attention to. And so as a Canadian, I feel responsible for who we're going to commit to bring into Canada. And I know governments across the globe are reaching out to support those that need to settle somewhere else for safety. We also have a responsibility to make sure they know about the issues that are in the existing countries that they're coming to, and give them the means and the information to know how to keep themselves and their families safe. Because if they come into a new community and they are not familiar in Canada, it's one of the two official languages, both written or spoken, they can be duped and tricked and fooled and told that rules are different than they really are. So helping assist them to understand their basic human rights, what the laws are in our country, and what supports are available to them in their own language is important. So we've started on a journey. We are part of more than a collaboration with organizations from across the board. And we are currently finalizing some safety protocols that read very casually. They're very normal things that somebody would read and be welcome to say, here's some things that are going on. Just a heads up, here's how you can keep yourself safe. Here's what the rules are, if you are in doubt. And fortunately in Canada, we have a national hotline that's available for anybody to call in over 200 languages. So if we can gift that back into our community with our allies, business and professional women, the Canadian Federation of University Women, the Canadian Council of Muslim Women, the Council of Women from Punjabi and Sikh communities, those from our French-speaking communities, those from our Indigenous communities at a high level. And if we can just work together and get this into our, we call them settlement centers, we don't call them immigration centers in Canada. If we can get those images, the content, the information about prevention out in front, we're one step in front of the crime.
So you're translating a lot of that information because they don't have it in their native tongues, which is great. And you're making a gift of that. So, and tell us the number you just mentioned, the telephone number.
So, sorry, it's my PTSD, so it's right out of my brain. And
Okay.
I'd like you to add it to the screens if you can. It's the Canadian Centre to End Human Trafficking hotline.
Okay.
And what I do is I encourage everybody right now while they hear it to put it into their phone. Put it in your phone. Do a little bit of research. There's a lot of free information on the internet to know what signs, but also behaviors are that you could be seeing. And what I encourage people to do is speak up for others, because I can honestly assure you that, you know, one of the things we need to understand that by educating ourselves and becoming aware of the prevalence, not just, you know, the dark stories, but if we can understand risk in our communities and we can reach out to one another, if we can gift this to language communities, to communities of people from different ethnic orientation, religious, faith backgrounds, different industries, different cultures, and they are empowered to take it into their own communities. We provide a better social safety net against not only crimes, but just some of the most egregious things that you'd ever hear happening to anybody. Let's do the prevention. Mm-hmm. So we are always looking for ambassadors. We will train you to take this into your own community and give you the intellectual property, the correct information, and kind of give it a little extra pizzazz by making sure it includes your local information. And then we can actually tell you how you can take and move this forward. If you don't have a coalition, how to start one. If you want to talk to government, how you can do that and push governmental will, and how to have the conversation without just scaring people. And then putting a couple dates on your calendar. So whether, you know, you're hearing this in Canada or the United States or, you know, across the pond somewhere, look at what your local, national, and collective dates are for anti-human trafficking, and try to do things to point to those dates so we don't exhaust people.
Right. Right. That was my next question, is how can, excuse me, how can the audience help? So are there any other things that they can be doing?
Well, the first thing that you can do is if you go to, if you want more info, go to info@courageforfreedom.org. And any allies or network partners that we have across the globe that we can connect you to locally, we will. And if there aren't some strong, robust activities in your community happening, we can give you a toolkit and you can decide how you want to go on the journey. And if you've got a bunch of other things, you know, as human beings, there are so many things swirling societally right now that are tugging at our time, energy, and we need to keep our mental health and our wellness at the forefront first to be available to do some of this. So I would pick the date that makes sense. For us in Canada, there's a National Human Trafficking Awareness Day of February 22nd. We ask you to put it on the calendar, and for a few weeks before, figure out what you're going to do to be part of that in advocacy, activism, and as a solutionist. And then there's always the International Day, is July 30th. It's the United Nations Day to End Trafficking in Persons. So if you just look at those two calendar days and start there, it's a good start. And just know whether you're on page 1 or 250 on this issue, and how much time you have to give to some activities, and what kind of learning do you want to do? How do you want to get involved?
And let's talk about your book for just a second. You know, how can people get a copy of that?
Again, they can go to info@courageforfreedom.org and give us some information. And those that volunteer with us, by the way, I'm an unpaid CED. It's a really bad retirement plan, but it's a really good life plan. Well, said by my husband. But we only have one paid staff. Everybody else, that almost 70 people currently, they volunteer for us. So we'll ask you to make a $20 contribution to the book.
Mm.
There are survivor stories. There are also other stories of resiliency and just hope. And they make great gifts. It was a #1 bestseller on Amazon. So I'm really pleased that two 16-year-olds, we use the book for two 16-year-olds to get their English language credits in school.
Oh.
And they are anonymous in the book, but forever they will stand forward proud that they are #1 best-selling authors.
And is your story in the book?
There's a little bit. My story's too big. I'm old as dirt. So I'm still writing chapters and hoping at the end of this year to be part of a collective and contributing in an incredible book. So stay tuned. But also next year, we're going to be coming out with Courage for Freedom Volume 2, the freedom to live in fulfillment. That'll have more of me.
Good. Well, we'll look forward to that for sure. So I know you said you're unpaid and you have volunteers mostly.
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit about how can a person get into, or let me ask you it this way, what advice would you give someone who did want to work and get paid in the nonprofit sector? What advice would you give them?
We have to stop thinking that we're the only ones that can invent a wheel. There's so many people, including survivors, that they just step up, they see a gap, and instead of doing their homework to see if somebody else is actually got some door opening happening, has some strategic planning done, has their broadcast communication schedule, has people looking after their training and curriculum, has it being vetted, by their governmental partners to see an uptick in it. Look around. Go and work with and for somebody else first as an act of humility and to sow into your own future endeavor. We have to remember that who really owns the issue are the survivors. And so we do not have permission to speak on their behalf unless they've granted it, and then we need to amplify their requests. That's the first part. We don't need to start more agencies. We don't need to start more nonprofits, because we end up tugging for the same money. And that's one of the reasons we're not government funded, other than for if a project lands in our lap and somebody asks us to cooperate and collaborate with them, or if we're hiring summer students, many of whom are survivors. So we choose to do things that way so that we're not competing with those that are allies in industry. Because, at the end of the day, you can only tear a dollar up into so many pieces. In Canada, you can't even tear a loonie up. That's our dollar. So go and learn. Sit under somebody else, even if you have lived experience. Because if you see, I just say, I'm not going to go to an orchard where there's no fruit in the trees. So go and humble yourself. And, for years in a lot of different industries and through a lot of vocations, that's what I chose to do. And I can take a little piece of everything I've learned. And now, I didn't pick this. This picked me after years of serving in community and working to support other persons and to make sure that they're heard. Really, that the voiceless have opportunity, that their lived experiences are heard. So, and there's power, there is wisdom in the counsel of many. When there are lots of folks working together, yeah, it's harder, it can be really messy, but then you're not sitting at a table, you're trying to create standing room only. So anybody that's out there that's already doing the work and would like some some camaraderie, we're here for that as well. And we want to push and promote and cheer for anybody that's doing this work, because the more noise we make, the more unignorable we are. So if you want to start from the ground up, don't be afraid to let anybody else shine. Their star will shine light on you as well.
Would you say a person has to have a certain mindset to go to work for a nonprofit?
I would say you have to be willing to not just put in the 9 to 5, and you need to have a passion for the cause that goes beyond a job. Otherwise, you're either going to burn out or you'll pull out very quickly. Because most of the nonprofit work that I see, it's not an easy road. And, I learned a long time ago that you have to be careful going to the well so it doesn't dry out and it can replenish itself. I think if you understand that about nonprofit work and about community sharing, intersectionality includes sharing the money, not just the issues and the responses. So it's okay if, I've helped support and write grants for lots of other organizations, and my board of directors says, "What are you doing?" And I said, it was their day. It's their time to shine. And if we can be a little part of that, we're better in the process. So, I've got awards and accolades. I mean, the list is so long, it's almost embarrassing. And I've almost stopped accepting them, except every time I have opportunity to accept one, sorry, I'm going to cry. It
That's okay.
validates.
Yes. And you have exposure as well.
Well, it validates the work the survivors are putting in to demand change in our communities. We're demanding. We're demanding that we eradicate the buying and selling of girls and boys' children, period, from wherever, for whatever reason. And we don't care if it's in labor. We don't care if it's in commercial sexual exploitation on a screen or in person. We don't care if it's for organs. We have to understand that we have a civic duty. And so if you're going to get involved in a nonprofit, you need to understand their mission and their vision. And I can tell you there's lots of board of directors. There's lots of types of board of directors. It is not glamorous work. It's hard work. It's heavy lifting. But one of the things that I carry forward when I talk to other organizations and agencies to help them get a good handle on how to be resilient in the work is that it comes from my horses. So I drive horses, like drive horses. And I've learned that when one horse pulls, it can pull 1,500 or 1,000 pounds in weight behind it. But if you hitch a second horse, there's something called synergy. And so instead of pulling 2,000 pounds as two horses, when they're yoked together, they're purposed. One of them allows the other to lead and supports with the heavy lifting, and they're in step. They'll pull 3,000 pounds. And that's what our movement, Courage for Freedom, Project Maple Leaf across Canada, and now Project Interclusion, the diversity and ethnicity and just the global push. That's what we're doing. Synergy. So if you go into a nonprofit, you need to be available for synergy to happen, or don't get involved.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned about mindset, because, you hear stories and stories and stories, and you have to be able to take the pain of those stories day in and day out. The other thing I wanted to ask about, and then we'll wind up, is I always tell people to have a second gig, whether they have a job or not. But would you say that's even more necessary when you work for a nonprofit?
The problem is, a lot of the young people I have the opportunity to work with, I supervise post-secondary education students and help work with them. So they keep me young and fresh. So they call it a side hustle.
Right.
I can't have a side hustle. At my age and stage, if I had a side hustle, I'd be so angry that I'm working outside of my purpose. But then again, for those that are younger, and I remember these days, I called it tent making. So even though you're doing something else, you're still doing a side hustle to support the means to be able to do the things that are important to you. You have to decide if you're capable. But let me tell you, if you're going to work in a nonprofit or a charitable work in your community, and it has the level of experience-based research, the anecdotal evidences, the person-centric stories, and the trauma that we experience, you can't side hustle, because your side hustle is basically self-care. You have to stay well and engaged and fully present in the work that we do. So we are always searching for those people that would work with us full-time if they're retired, part-time if they're retired, one time a year for a project, or if they have the wherewithal to sit on our board or lead areas that we're engaged in, like our 3 projects. You can't side hustle when your side hustle needs to be self-care because of the issues your agency and organization is addressing, unless you're really good at time management and you can compartmentalize. It's just my 2 bits.
No, but that's a good answer, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the work you're doing. And, bless you, it's work I couldn't do. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. So I double appreciate the work that you're
Thank
doing.
you.
And we'll put up how people can get in touch with you. And good luck on your projects. So thank you so much.
You work really hard at it, Diane, just like you do, to help. I mean, you've basically pulled this information painstakingly out of me, because, it's important to get it out there. And believe it or not, I don't like to be at the front of this. I'd rather be in a barn with a girl. But it's where I'm called to be. So I stand for many. I stand on the shoulders of great people who've done the work far in front of me. And hopefully I offer my shoulders for others to stand on, like yourself.
Well, thank you. And your passion is obvious. And believe me, the information just flows out of you. You did a great job today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Bless you, Diane.
Thank you for watching Business Notes. We've been speaking with Kelly Tallon Franklin, the founder of Courage for Freedom, a Canadian leading organization that fights human trafficking. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, bringing you business ideas you can bank on.